And welcome back to Cape Town, and this is of course where we are at the ICC, the Cape Town International Convention Centre, where mining Indaba 22 is taking place. And right now, as promised earlier, we're going to talk nuclear, and as you know, nuclear has become somewhat controversial, not too sure about the reasons behind it, but it has for various reasons in South Africa. But according to the plan, the integrated resource plan going forward and the energy mix that South Africa aspires to, nuclear very much part of that plan. And joining me now is the Deputy Director General Nuclear Energy at the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, Mr. Zizamele Mbambo. Thanks so much for speaking to us this morning here on Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and the listeners at home.
Mr. Mbambo, let's just start with where are we in South Africa with regard to nuclear energy and nuclear being part of the mix that would somehow resolve our energy crisis?
Yes, thank you very much. Just to give a perspective, Sakina and the listeners, is that nuclear, as you've indicated, is part of the energy mix in South Africa. So, as we are standing here in Cape Town, the lights that we see here generating electricity is through the electricity power that we've got coming from the Koeberg nuclear power station, which generate about 5% of our energy that feeds into the grid. And it's got an important role that it plays in terms of stabilizing the grid, generating clean baseload electricity, as well as ensuring that we've got electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, non-stop. And in terms of the government plan, as you've alluded, Sakina, is that it's part of the integrated resource plan, which allocates 2,500 megawatts of nuclear power, that as the department were preparing for its deployment at a pace and a scale that the country can afford. You would recall that last year the energy regulator NERSA concurred with the ministerial determination for the procurement of this 2,500 additional nuclear power with suspensive conditions. So at this stage, the department is busy addressing the NERSA suspensive conditions before we proceed with the preparations for the procurement of an additional 2,500 megawatts of nuclear.
So just in a nutshell, what are some of those suspensive conditions?
Well, some of the suspensive conditions that NERSA wanted us to look into the different technologies as we go forward with nuclear. They've also said we have to provide rationality in terms of the quantity that will be required to be procured for nuclear as part of the mix post 2030, as well as also looking into the various types of contracting mechanisms that would mitigate the risk when we procure. They've prescribed that we should look into the EPC contracting model, which we've addressed all of this. And of course, the issue of cost becomes an important part of all that work that the department is doing to address the conditions that were imposed by the regulator.
Mr. Mbambo, you talk about some of the conditions and, of course, safety as an issue, mitigating some of the risks. And we've seen here in Cape Town some protests around the storage, especially of byproducts here from the Koeberg power station. Let's talk about that, just in terms of reassuring the South African public that nuclear expansion will not in any way be harmful to the environment and to people living around a nuclear plant.
Yes, thank you very much. Assure South Africans that in terms of our safety record in South Africa, we've been operating our nuclear facilities for more than 50 years. So we've got an impeccable record in terms of safe operation of these facilities. And also, you've touched on the issue of the storage of waste. We also have a national repository that is situated in the Northern Cape. It's called the Valput, where nuclear waste is stored safely there for over the years that our facilities have been operating. And also, our nuclear facilities in South Africa are built in such a manner that we're able to store the high-level radioactive waste within our site. One of the key issues that nuclear becomes much more an integral part of the energy mix is that nuclear is a carbon-free technology. It's one of the clean baseload technologies, which lends itself quite importantly as part of the just energy transition. And we have seen that globally there is a global consensus that nuclear is part of the green energy technologies that are required to take the countries forward in terms of clean energy technologies and ensuring the security of supply, which in terms of South Africa, we've got the resources, we've got the uranium, which is mined as part of the byproduct in the gold mines. So what we need to do now is that going forward, we need to ensure that we can beneficiate our uranium for value add within the nuclear value chain to ensure that we can derive and manufacture the fuel in South Africa for peaceful purposes.
Mr. Mabo, we'll leave it there for today, of course, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again after mining Indaba just to talk more about nuclear energy and, of course, where we're going with this as part of our energy mix in South Africa. But thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
Deputy Director General in the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, Mr. Zizamele Mbambo, there talking to us about nuclear as part of the energy mix in South Africa.